Hello, you intelligent beings of planet Earth. All right, right now we're going to start our lesson on our algebra of 1-5, which is adding and subtracting integers. And you should remember that the word integer from our previous lesson means positive and negative numbers. Okay, so I'm going to do, I want you to copy down, first just going to go over a number line and how we can use a number line. So positive numbers like to move to the right, and negative numbers move to the left. But we'll go over that in just a second. What I want you to do is I want you to copy down everything that is right behind me, and then we'll get ready to go over this. So I'm going to step out of the way. Alright, so now that you restarted the video, let's look at what we're going to be doing on these problems. So when we are adding numbers, especially if we use a number line, it's just a great visual aid. All right, so we look at our first math problem. We have 3 plus 5. Okay. Now the 3, the first number, is always where we start on a number line. So we go to the number 3. This is where we're going to start, right here. That's our starting point. So we're going to start at number 3. Now, when it says plus 5, well, that looks like a positive 5. Well, according to this, that means we're going to move to the right because it's a positive number. So what happens, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to put a little arrow there and a little bar going all the way back to our 3. And this was 5 spaces to the right. And that's why we end up at 8 as our answer. So that's why 3 plus positive 5 equals a positive 8. Because we start at the 3, we move 5 spaces to the right, and then you end up at 8 as your answer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work out the rest of these so that for some of you can just copy these down. So make sure that you have this part copied down, and then just in a moment you're going to see some new notes up here. Copy down those notes, and then I'll go over everything. As you can see, I added a lot more notes to this table. So what I want you to do is hit pause, pay real close attention, and write down everything that you see, right? Including all the number lines and all the notes with them. Okay, so now that that's done, let's look at problem number B. All right, so on problem B, I have a 3 plus a negative 5. So again, the first number, we always start there. You never change that first number, ever. Just, that's where you start. So here's my number line where we started at a positive 3, right? But this time, it's a negative 5. Well, negatives mean move to the, that's right, the left. So I start with my 3, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, I'm sorry, don't start with the 3, skip count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, see, spaces to the left, and I end up at negative 2. So, there's the problem. 3 plus negative 5 is a negative 2. On letter C, now we're starting at negative 3. So I kind of changed my number line to have the zeros a little bit more in the center, but I'm starting at negative 3. But what am I adding to it? I'm adding a positive 5, which means move 5 spaces to the right. So again, we skip count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I end up on a positive 2, hence negative 3 plus 5 is positive 2. Now down here, if you look at my number line, I have a lot of negatives, and I put 0 and just a couple positives way over here. So, again, where do I start? The first number, which is -3. I'm adding a -5, which means I have to go to the left again, because it's a negative number. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, and it's hard to see, but that's a -8. So we have -3 plus a -5 equals a -8, right? So we're just going to give a little spoiler alert for the next section. Take a look at our answers over here and see what kind of happened when these two were both positive numbers, or the same sign, and these two down here were both negative numbers, or the same sign. It kind of looks like we added them up to get different types of 8. Where the two in the middle, one's positive, one's negative. Same down here, it's just changed. We have a negative and a positive, but it does not look like addition. It looks more like subtraction. So that is a spoiler alert for the next section. So make sure that this is all written down. Make sure that you understand the instruction, and we're going to go right into the next part. Okay, so make sure you just write this down. And to be quite honest, if you really think you know this well, just write this down and skip over the explanation. But make sure that this is in your notes, but then skip what's going to come next. So just take a moment, copy it on down. All right, so some of you might not be listening to the part. I'm okay with that. So we have our addition rules of integers, right? And you've heard me say this a couple times last week, but we have the same signs. We actually add them up, and we keep the sign. Now, sometimes what I said by same signs, what I meant is like if you have two people on the same team, right? Or they're wearing the same jersey, when the whistle blows, they come together. They add up together. So that's why you keep their sign. So right here, we have a -2 plus a -4. Well, they're both negatives. They're both team members. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to add them up. So you just go 2 plus 4 is 6. But remember, what team are they on? They're part of the negative team, so their answer should be a -6. Or if both of the members are on the same team, but they're both on the positive team, same sign again, both positives, we add them up. You get your 9, but because they were both on the same team, your 9 is also a positive, okay? So just remember, that's where we get same signs. You actually add them up and you keep the sign. So the plus sign, this symbol right here, is not why we add, okay? You just look for this symbol and then follow these two rules. So let's look at the second rule. What happens if your signs are different, right? Or you have two people and they're on different teams, right? So you're actually going to subtract those numbers, and you're going to keep the bigger sign, or you're going to keep the team that has more members on it. So let's look at those examples. So we have a -2, so that's on the negative team. They're going to play against +4. Right now, the 4 is positive, and he has more members. There's 4 of these positive characters compared to only 2 of these negative guys. So 4 is your bigger one. We're actually going to subtract them, not add them. Right? It's like, when teams go on the battlefield or on the playing field, there's some subtraction. Right? One player tries to take out another player. So that's what happens. 2 of these guys managed to take out 2 of them, so we subtract. But like I said, the positive team had more members, so we get 2, and it has to be a +2. So we look at this one. We have 1 plus a -15. So there's a lot more negatives on this team, a lot more negatives. So our answer is going to have to be a negative answer. we have our one positive. So this one positive takes out one of these guys, or we subtract, and we get negative 14. So you're no longer looking at the plus sign to tell you to add. You're looking at the plus sign to tell you when to follow these rules, to follow the addition rules. That's all the plus sign means. So as soon as you see a plus sign, don't add. Ask yourself two questions. Do they have the same sign, or do they have different signs? Because that will be your course of action. All right, so make sure that this is all written down and inside your notes. All right, so now we went over the addition rules of integers, but what happens when we get to subtraction rules? So again, take the time, copy this down. If you understand this, then you don't have to listen to the rest of this section. All right, so you have that copied down. So when we have the subtraction rule is you add the opposite, and I'll explain that in a second. And then after you add the opposite, you follow the adding rules. Okay, so let's look at this problem right over here. So we have a standard 7 take away 3, right? And all of us know that 7 take away 3 is 4. But here's what I mean by adding the opposite. The first number, the 7, don't touch that. That always stays the same. Just drop that down. The first number always stays the same. But the rule number 1 says add. So take that subtraction sign, turn it to an addition sign, and here's the key. Once you do that, sometimes it helps me by covering up the minus sign. Well, that looks or appears to be a positive 3. What is the opposite of a positive 3? A negative 3. So now, this 7 minus 3 is actually the same thing as 7 plus its opposite, or 7 plus negative 3. And then step 2, follow the adding rules. So the adding rules is if they're on the same team, add them up. If they're on different teams, take away. So, well, that's a positive. That's a negative. Not the same team. So we subtract. We put 4. The reason it's positive because the 7 has more members and is a positive number. So it has the bigger sign. That's why the 4 matches. Okay. Now, we come over to this one. And we have a negative 9 minus a negative 4. Again, follow the rule. Add the opposite. So we keep the negative 9. That's the first number. You see, I did not change it, just like the 7. I can't point to it. There it is. I did not change the 7. So do not change the negative 9. But I took my minus sign and I what? Changed it to addition because I'm going to add. Now, the opposite, when it's in parentheses, it's a little bit easier to see that this is a negative 4. So the opposite of negative 4 is a positive 4. So we just added the opposite, and then we follow the addition rules. Negative, positive. Not the same team, not the same sign. So we're going to take away 9, take away 4 is 5. Now I just have to see who has more members. Well, this time the 9, which is negative, has more members. So my answer is also going to be negative 5. Okay, I want you to write down these 3 subtraction problems. But what I want you to do is I want you to turn them into addition problems and solve them. Okay? So, again, copy down these 3. Try to make them into addition problems and get their answers before continuing on. So hit pause right now, do them, and then unpause it to check the answers. All right, so here's how they look as addition problems, and here's their answers. Hopefully you got those on your paper. If not, make sure that you find me in class and ask me for more explanation. So that's the end. Have a math-tastic day.